So once you have your ruffles in place, you're going to sew across the entire waistband. Remember, the waistband is the widest part that we have not cut away on at all. You're going to start on one side of the ruffle, and on the wrong side of the fabric, with that pressed open seam, you are going to put that seam where the ruffle meets the body directly under the foot, and you are going to sink your needle right into that seam, and we are going to do a couple of regular stitches on a regular length, and then back stitch. Go forward a few stitches, and now you can adjust it to a larger stitch length, which will create the shirring. And we're going to do that from the waist from one side to the other side. I know it's a long stitch, keep on going. If you do happen to run out of bobbin thread or top thread or anything like that, or something breaks, you do have to unfortunately start over again. It's really hard to get the ruching going in several different spots if you're using several different areas to ruche. You want to keep one long steady string going. Alrighty, made it through to the other side. And I'm going to snip it. And since we had the other side secured with that back stitch, what I'm going to do now is the same thing that we've been doing for every ruffle that's come along, and start ruching the waist. You're basically going to ruche this to the exact length that your own waist is, okay? Because this skirt kisses directly in the center, so it'll be your exact waist measurement. If you want to make it 1 inch larger, that would be okay, because that will actually leave you a little bit of room for lunch, as I like to say, so it doesn't fit you skin tight. You always need a little bit of ease. At first, it doesn't matter how you gather it. What I want you to do is to get the entire skirt length, line it up with the tape measure. Let's say your waist is 28 inches. You're going to want to make sure that this entire length here is 28 inches from side to side, not counting the ruffles, okay? It's just seam to seam should be 28 inches in length if that is your waist measurement, or 29, somewhere thereabouts. You don't want to make it that much bigger or that much smaller. A 1 inch variance is okay. Okay, so you're going to continue ruching along until you get to your exact waist measurement size. So if your waist is 28 inches, you're going to use the measuring tape and measure from seam. So that's this seam right here. You do not count the 3 inches of ruffle. And you line up the tape, and you would do this flat on a table, but I'm doing this now to show you. Going directly across. And don't worry if it isn't gathered evenly in all places. Right now you're just trying to get the length. You can fix it later. And you're going to go all the way to the other side where it meets your length right at the seam. Again, not counting the ruffle on the other side. If it matches your measurements, great. If you need to take it out or gather it a little bit more, please do so. When you figure that part, go to the part where you started ruching and you have that one long thread hanging off. What you're actually going to do is hold the fabric flat, pull the stitch, and you're going to bring the stitch from the other side or the bobbin thread up. It forms a little loop. You're going to bring it up And right now you're going to have one really long piece, and you can cut that so you don't have all this excess thread, and you're going to make a little knot. And again, this should be from seam to seam exactly what your waist measurement is. And now you can go back and adjust the shirring. So there's two ways to do the waist for this lesson. You can spread out your shirring evenly the same way that you would a ruffle, which would mean that you have gathering throughout your entire waist evenly. Or you could make a really, really cool thing and flatten it out where it's closest to the ruffle and put all your gathering closer to the back where the bustle would be, closest to your padonkadonk. All right, so if you're working with a wider width of fabric, that is going to be if you took your panel and folded it in half, and whatever the fold mark is the center back, or your padonkadonk, as they like to say, as the kids say these days. So you can gather it all back there however you want, but you want to make sure that it's balanced on both sides. So if it's really gathered on the other side and it's straight on the first side, it's going to look kind of funny, but you arrange it how you want. I think it looks really cool if it's all bustled in the back, because it creates a lot of volume, and we're going to be adding a slightly more bustling later. So if you want to test it, you just fold it again and take a look at it. If the ruffling is a little uneven towards the back, just want to spread it out a little bit more. Maybe spread the entire width of the shirring out. Yeah, and this one looks right about even. All right, so we want to secure that shirring, that little bustling that we created. So in order to do that, you don't actually have to stitch through any parts that are flat. You want to start at the part where you're ruffling. Obviously, if you've ruffled from the beginning of the ruffle at the top, or rather shirred the waist, right there, you're going to want to start securing your stitching there, but mine is pretty flat. I've moved my bustle just to the back area, so I'm going to start a little bit before that. And it's just a plain straight stitch using a shorter stitch length, and I'm going to run it through. Don't forget to adjust your tension a little bit looser so you can make it through all the layers of the gathers here. And you're sewing along that same stitch line at 1/2 inch. Occasionally you'll have to reposition. Don't worry, as long as that needle's in there, you're not going to lose your position. All right, so excellent. Once that is secured, you are ready to move on to attach your waist ribbon.